Okay, so this is a quick tutorial on how to get started on assignment 1. I'm going to set up the image planes and begin the process of creating the object and show you how to use component mode. And then I'll do a few pieces of it for myself, and then you'll be on your own to complete the project based on repeating the same steps that I show you at the beginning. So first thing you want to do is set up the image planes on here. So we'll do that by starting in the front view, and I'll go to in the front camera. I'll go to View, Image Plane, Import Image, and then you'll go to Browse to find your particular image that you're using. You may have it in your project folder, or you may have it on hard drive, but you can find these off the class website under the Assets tab. Okay, so there's the first one. So what I want to do is I already have my my grid and my units set up. My units are set up to inches. My grid is set up to be one grid line on each unit. And I know that, just like we did in class, and I know that this image tells me this 20 inches from here to here. So I want to scale this back up so that it's 20 inches across there. And I'll just line this side up with the 0 axis, and then continue to enlarge it until I get it to be the full 20 inches. I may have to move it around just a little bit. Alright, so that was pretty good. Next I want to push it back behind the grid, so I'm going to go into my perspective view here. And let me get my view to focus on that selection. And I'm going to just move it backwards away from the main axis, and that way the grid will come up in front of it down here on this one, and that way I know where the main axis is. This is the 0 point, and so I want to move my object or my plane up now so that it's sitting directly on that 0. If you want, you can double check to make sure that this is 37 inches, and it doesn't look quite like it is. So, but we didn't change the proportions of this, so I know that's correct. The problem may be in the way they measured, particularly because I know this is this back is angled, and it may go all the way to the bottom. So if they measured it that way, then it could be 37, but not specifically straight up and down. So we'll just kind of ignore the 37 for now. So now we need to go to the side viewport over here, and we'll do the same thing. Import the image, and once you find that, you do the same thing. We'll scale it up. Let's go to the perspective viewport for this one, because what we can do is, since we know this is correct from the here to here as far as being 20 inches, we can just use that image to scale this. So we know that the bottom of this leg has to meet the bottom of that leg, and the top of the armrest has to meet the top of that armrest. So we'll use those things as a way to scale this. And move it over just to make sure. So if we zoom in on there, you can see that the top of the armrest meets and the bottom meets with the floor line there. And so everything else seems to be on track. So now what we'll do is, just like the other one, we'll move this one back behind that way, and then we'll move this one back this way. That way, we're going to be modeling the object right here, and that way, I'll move this one over a little bit. That way, the planes don't get in the way of our view when we're trying to model it. Alright, so those pieces are in place, and now we can start modeling. So this particular object is made primarily of just boxes, simple boxes. So with that, I grabbed a few images of actual Adirondack chairs just to see the details of how they're put together. So you can see here, and I grabbed a few different varieties because they aren't all the same. But you can see here from the images that I would say most of these are built out of, at least some of these smaller support pieces are about a 1/2 inch thick, as well as the back and the slats that make the seat are all about a 1/2 inch thick. Some of the other parts may be a little thicker, but as you can see in this one, these are all about 1/2 inch thick. So we can pretty much utilize that as our basis. So all of the pieces are going to be roughly a 1/2 inch thick. And then we'll go from there. And then the rest of it's going to be based on the widths of each of these. So some of these look like they're maybe 2 inches, some 3 inches. It just kind of depends on the piece and where it's located. So, but at least we know that they're approximately a 1/2 inch. So those perspective images will really come in handy for you so that you can kind of see where everything fits. So I'll start off here in the side view. Or actually, let me start off here in the front view, and we'll start with this piece right here. So I'm going to go to, I'm holding down my space bar, and I'm going to create polygon cube. I'm just going to left click and drag to get that piece, and then I click to make it a little bigger there. I'm going to hit 6 in my perspective view. I'm going to hit 6 on the keyboard, and that way it makes it shaded. And I'm going to hit F so it focuses on that object. Now I'm going to go to Control A. That brings up my attribute editor, and I'll click on the third tab in. It says Polycube 1, and I want to just double check the height of this right now is, and obviously that's the smallest section, which is also the thickness here, is 0.7. So that's really more like close to 3/4 of an inch thick. And you could do that. You could keep that at 3/4 of an inch thick. I'm going to make that up to you. In fact, I'm thinking, let's just go ahead and do, let's see what 0.5 looks like. Yeah, that'll work. So we'll stick with 0.5. That's 1/2 inch. Alright, so we'll put that in there. And double check the location. So obviously we need to move it. Everything you build will primarily, unless you're in perspective view, everything's going to come on in the 0 axis. So we were looking that direction, so put it right there in the 0. So we'll have to move this into place, and I'm going to move it right into the front. So the next thing we have is, let's go ahead and put this armrest here, or this leg, this front leg. And so I'm going to go into the top view, or we could do it from this side too. Let's go from this side. Side view, create polygon cube, and I'm just gonna, whoop, yeah, sometimes it doesn't work very well in the side view, so I'm just gonna undo, get rid of that, and we'll do this from the top view. So I'm gonna zoom out and see where my things are. Okay, here's a piece right here. So go create perspective cube, and just draw a box any size, doesn't matter. And then we'll go into this side view here, and we can adjust this. Now the way I want you to adjust this one is through component mode. Now component mode tells us what each object is made of. So the way you access components is you hold your right mouse button down over the object, and you can see here you have edge, vertex, and faces. And then if you go to the upper right, you have object mode that takes you back. So let's say I want to go to vertex. You'll notice that at each intersection we have a little pink dot that represents each vertex. So if I want to grab something, I can click on it and you can move it, change the way it's shaped. I'll hit undo to bring that back to normal. And you can grab multiple ones as well. Move it, hit E, and you can rotate it. You know, that's what component mode does. Now if I hold the right mouse button down over again, go to edge, I can select each edge individually, or I could go to face and select each face individually and adjust that way. So that's what we're going to do. So what we'll do here is I'm going to do a cross selection over all 4 of the vertices on the top part, and then I'll hit W to move, and I'll just grab the up axis there and move them upward. I'm going to do this in the side view though, so that way I can tell how high to go based on my plan. So I go all the way to the underside of that arm, and you can see it's a little long here, so I'm going to grab all of the vertices on the right side and then push them back in. Then I'll hold my right mouse button down over the object again, right on the edge of it, and hit object mode. And that takes me back to the plane object mode. So now we've got the first leg. Now if you want the other side of it, with that leg selected, hold Control and hit D for duplicate, and then W to move it over, and then line it up with in the front view, make sure it's lined up properly. So now we have 2 legs. Not too hard. So the next step is, let's go ahead and throw together this piece right here, this little back leg that angles downward. So I'm going to show you another step to this. So what we can do is duplicate this leg, grab this leg right here, hit Control D, move it out of the way, then hit E to rotate, and we'll grab this rotation axis right here, it's the x-axis, and we'll rotate it down to match the angle of this piece. So I'll go back to my side view, and you can see here trying to match that angle, and then I'll move it so it's pretty close to being the right size. I'm going to overlap it just a little bit on that, on this side here, and then adjust the angle just a little bit, and then I'm going to go back to component mode and use vertex, grab those last 2 vertices and move them all the way out here. Now this is where it gets a little bit tricky, because as you can see, this is just the box, and you can also see on the plan that this one goes behind the front leg, so I'll move this behind the front leg. And it's good to zoom in, make sure you get it close. Alright, so what we need to do is make this thing curve a little bit. So what we'll do is I'm going to go to component mode, go to vertex, I'm going to do a crossover box to select the vertices right there in that corner. The reason I do a crossover is because there's 2 of them, one right behind each other. Oh. So if you look at this, there they are. So I'm going to bring this down just by moving it to that point. I'm going to go back to object mode, and now I'm going to add in some additional edges across here so that I can use the vertices to create this curve. So I'm going to go up here to Edit Mesh, and I'm going to say Insert Edge Loop Tool. So I'm going to create, just click directly on that edge, and then you see it creates new edges there. And that should be enough. So we'll see what that looks like in the side view here. Now the Insert Edge Loop tool takes that edge and goes all the way around that object, which is kind of nice. Now what we'll do is go in here and go to vertex mode and do a crossover, hit W to move, and we'll move that up and follow that outline to create that rounded shape. And then we also have this little dip where the seat takes place. So what we can do is use that insert edge loop tool again to kind of place a few more vertices inside there. Okay, so that's pretty much it for that piece. So that piece is now completed, and really all you need to do is from here on out is copy, so duplicate. So let's say we're going to make the arm across here, the armrest. I'll select this one here and hit Control D to duplicate it, move it up, hit E to rotate, so I'll rotate it flat. If you want to make sure it's exactly 90 degrees, get it close and then come over here to the channel editor, and you can see the rotation Y is only -87. So I'll just click in there and type -90, and that makes sure it's exactly flat. And then I can rotate it the other direction to match up with the way it needs to be in the scene based on the plan. And again, I went a little bit past 90, so I'll go -90, make sure it's exact. And now I'll move it to adjust to make sure it's lined up with the one in the plan view. So go to the different sides here, and as you can see, it's a little short compared to the one in the plan, so we'll adjust that. I think it might be a little high up too. And then I'll just use the vertices to pull it back as far as I need it to go. And everything there looks pretty good. So this is where I'm going to save it and kick you out of the nest. So you should have enough information here. In fact, I know you have enough information here to complete the rest of this chair, because every other piece in here is simply a duplicate of the pieces you already have, and it's just been adjusted by selecting, going to vertice and moving vertices, or in the case of these back pieces here where it's curved, same thing. Do the exact same thing we did with this. Put your piece in place, add some new edges by using your insert edge loop tool, and then use the vertices to make a little bit of a curve in those areas. So I know you can put the rest of this together for assignment 1, and that is the assignment for you to do. Just take this chair and complete it on your own, and then bring this to the next lab as instructed on the in the instruction sheet, and I will give you points for having this completed. Okay, so that should be all, and I don't think there's anything else that I need to tell you on this other than make sure you save it, and save it as an MB file, Maya binary file, and make sure your z-axis is set to up and your units are set to inches, and you should be good.